Evening. Shalom, Rav. Shalom.
Rav.
Good evening, Sam.
Good evening. Good evening, Harold. Good evening, Rabbi.
Hello, Sam.
I
Yes.
just have to apologize because I'm not prepared. The whole day was, you heard probably that Batya is in hospital since last Wednesday, Tuesday now. And she fractured what they call it, a tibia, something in their calf. And they were in two minds whether to operate or not to operate, and they decided to operate tomorrow. So the whole day today I had to try and get the forms because she can't take care of herself to sign, etc., because of her cognitive problems. So I had to get court order that I can sign on their behalf. So it was a terrible, terrible day.
Shame, Rav.
But I thought that I shouldn't cancel it, and maybe also we learn a little bit, and it's going to be very short. And I thought instead of canceling that it should be for her schus, for credit, and please daven for her. Her name is Batya Bat Rochelea. Batya Bat Rochelea, Shlema B'Mehera.
Amen. Refresh them.
Amen.
This is where the situation. I thought because Shabbos there wasn't parasha, it was Yom Tov, and I was in two minds what we were talking about. So I thought that maybe what is Shir Hashirim? You know that in Pesach, or let's put this way, we've got scrolls. Pesach we read Shir Hashirim, Shavuot we read Ruth, Tisha B'Av we read Eicha, Purim, Megillat Esther. So there are Megillot. Each one has got a connection with the date that Chazal gave us to read. In Eretz Israel, and also in other places in the world, the scrolls that are read in Pesach, Shir Hashirim, Ruth, and so on, they actually read it from a Megillah, like Purim, Megillat Esther, and with the Broche, al Mikra Megillah, like in Purim, with Shechianu. Very unusual you don't see it in South Africa, although that my father-in-law told me that in Bes Medrash HaGodel in Dorffontein, many years ago, he was a Balkfila there, and he was Balkriya, he was learning. So there he learned Shir Hashirim from a cloth, from a parchment, from a scroll, with a brocha as they do it here. So, who wrote Shir Hashirim? And what is it called Shir Hashirim? Song of Songs, Shir Hashirim. It says that Shir Hashirim Asher Lishlomo, the King Solomon, he, according to the Gemara in Batra, the Gemara says that Shlomo Melech, he wrote Shir Hashirim when he was young, and Kohelet, what we read in Sukkot, I forgot to mention this. Kohelet that we read in Sukkot, this he read at the end of his life. In Shir Hashirim, you can see is talking about um, youth, love between two lovers. Kohelet is more a pessimistic writing, how the world is nothing, etc., etc. So it is interesting the periods of a human being, how it changes. At any rate, it was a big debate among the Chachomim whether Shir Hashirim should have the respect and the sanctity of of the biblical books. Some say because when you read it, it looks to you that just a very simple, very beautiful, but discussion between two lovers, and you can't see what kind of a place can have Shir Hashirim as a holy book. But Rabbi Akiva, he says, Shir Hashirim, כל הספרים קודש, Shir Hashirim קודש קודשים. In other words, Rabbi Akiva, he actually there is no doubt that Shir Hashirim should be respected and be taken as the holy of holies. And now, how do we can see? So this is where the commentators in Chazal, in Midrashim, even in the mystical literature, Zohar, basically, it is a love story between two lovers as they try to woo each other, but it is a symbol to the love between Am Yisrael, the Jewish people, and God. And this is the way we have to look into it. When you read it in your English translation, you can see there is a beautiful kind of expressions of love. At the same time, taking certain sceneries of Eretz Israel, and I said a couple of times, in the olden times, if we wanted to know what is the relationship between God and the Jewish people, we have to see it based on the relationship between two people who are married. And the love of two people, married people, and this should stand up as a model and example for the love exists between the Jewish people and God. However, I said it a couple of times, unfortunately, today I think we have to look back to say how people should show and treat each other in marriage based on the stories of biblical stories of the prophets and Shir Hashirim, how they describe the relationship between God and the Jewish people. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Today, things have changed. The whole concept of love and became so, I would say, so without the beauty or the purity of love, which used to be. And when we read books like Shir Hashirim, or there are many times the prophets are using examples of love, of marriages in Israel and God, I think we have to try and copy what we are told in Tanakh, in the Bible, how to copy the love between the Jewish people and God to try and implement in our own life. Because you find, according to the commentaries and Midrashim, it says that Shir Hashirim actually tried to put the history of the Jewish people from the beginning in these expressions of song, going through history up to the future expectations of the final redemption. And this is the way we have to understand what Rabbi Akiva said. The Shir Hashirim is Holy of Holies, Kodesh Kodashim. It's not a simple love story. And even from the simple love story, this is what I am trying to say, we can draw lessons how should be the relationship between a couple who are married. There are a couple of things in the Midrashim, but for instance, there is a pasuk to say, Shchora ani benava, I'm black but beautiful. And Chazal say, there are certain times they are black, which means, okay, in South Africa, black is not beautiful, is it? But usually, black, okay, is not the beautiful like you expect, which tries to say, Am Israel, the Jewish people, many times they don't behave and look beautiful. They're black because with misbehavior. But nevertheless, there are two things. Na'ava, but they are beautiful in other times with other backgrounds, number one. And number two, that it emphasizes in Shir Hashirim, with all our faults that we have in our life, in our behavior, God is close to us and we are close to Him, and which again, I think has got a very big lesson. In a marriage, you've got sometimes downs. There is sometimes people are not happy with each other, but nevertheless, they have to look in the positive side and how the positive features, like God is talking to us by saying, yes, I know there are negative sides, but nevertheless, I'm looking at the positive time, how you came out from Mitzrayim, being so without any questions, where are we going, and so much confidence and so forth. So many ideas. I don't know if you can get. I think that there is a translation of the Medrash in English. I think that I saw it somewhere. So I just thought to give a kind of a brief introduction to understand that Shir Hashirim is not just what do you say? not a religious book, that's a love, book of love, but yes, it stands for much uh, deeper meanings. I saw some notes that I thought maybe there is a story about the Ramban that he was walking in a garden with a friend, a priest, a Christian priest, and they started to talk about Jews. The, the priest said to him, it seems to be that Jewish people are a bad nation, because otherwise we can accurately understand that the whole world hates them. So the story goes that the Ramban walked in to one corner and he says, look at this corner, here you see beautiful roses, beautiful flowers, but they're being eaten by the flies, by the creatures. On the other side, you see flowers which has got thorns, thorns, and there are no flies, and there are no creatures going there. The flies are going only to these flowers that are. He said, what does it show you? That the these roses, they they are so gentle and so soft, they cannot stand up against these creatures and the flies and so on, and the fleas. Like those thorns which has got, they can stand up. He says, we, it's not the reason we are Israel, not because we are worse than the others from our enemies, but we are too gentle and too soft to be able to stand up against the enemies like the nice gentle flowers. I thought this is an interesting story. um, and there is one story that Hasidic story. You heard about Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Mebarditche from Shir. Somebody, probably a non-Hasid, a rabbi, he wanted to learn something from the Hasidim to what can he learn from the way how they behave in the shul. So he went to the shul and he saw the congregants are with talesim, tefillin, but they don't sit in one place. They walk around. They daven quickly, swallow words, and, to a point that you can't actually understand what they're saying. And took it very short time, and they finished the davening. So this rabbi, the misnaged, the non-Hasid, he went to some of the daveners, and he said to the expert, said, "Mama, mama, va, 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 va." The people ask him, "What are you saying? Well, what is it?" He said, "Ba, ba, 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 ga, ga." So they thought themselves, well, this rabbi must be a little bit meshuggah. So they asked the rabbi, "What's going on?" He said, don't you understand what I'm speaking to you? This is the way I speak to God. Like it's swallowing words, which becomes like a mama, baba, gaga, dada, without any proper word. So Rabbi Yitzchak Mibarditchev tried to calm the rabbi, and he said to her, there is a posuk, ודיגלו עלי אהבה in Shir Hashirim. And Chazal say, אל תקרא דגלי, let's see what the English translation. He says in the second chapter, it says, הביאני אל בית היין ודגלו עלי אהבה. God brought me to the chamber of wine, which means Torah, and encompassed me with love, diglo. But Chazal say, diglo, al tikra diglo, but dilogo, which means escaping. And he said, you have to understand what God He loves us. He says it is like a baby where he calls for his mother, he doesn't pronounce words, say ba, ba, and nobody will understand what he says. But the father and the mother, they have understand the language of the baby. And therefore, the minute that they hear how the baby utters understandable words, whatever, they come to the bed and they understand the way what he wants, what he requests. If he wants to eat, he wants to drink. He says, we are the babies of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Banim atem lamakom. We are the children of God. And as children, our Father, God, He understands our language. I thought it's a beautiful way I said it. So which gives us, this Rabbi Yitzchak Mibarditchev was known, the Rebbe that he tries always to explain or to emphasize the positive side. And somebody used to complain, he said, look at the people, the Balagole, the one that got, what I call it, well, I got it, no, the one,
The wagon driver?
Balagole. It's got like a horse and a wagon.
A wagon driver. Yeah.
So you're in the middle of the davening, they go and they take the wheels to put the oil, whatever it is, that they should be able to say, look, in the middle of davening, look differently. Even when they treat the wheels to daven. So you can look at things. Either you look at things for negativity, or you look at things for positive things. I thought it's interesting, maybe that we can learn something. Many times in our life, we see things looks to us very, or other behavior or people. How can we try and train ourselves to look at things in a colorful way, in a positive way? Okay, Hebre, I'm managed at the end of the week. I'm completely exhausted. I am very tired, exhausted. Also, I'm very worried about this operation tomorrow, and etc., etc. And you forgive me that, as I said, I thought not to cancel. At least we did some divrei Torah, and maybe should be for a credit for Batya that she had
Yes,
on the
Rav
first
Hashem.
name quickly, and she recovered quickly.
Thank you, Rav. Thank you, Rav. Refuah
Amen.
Shlema.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
So I
Thank
wish
you
you
very much.
Refuah Shlema Besorot Tovot.
Amen.
First time
Amen.
heard about you.
Yeah, Refuah Shlema.
First time, Rab.
Yeah.
And thank you, Rav. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.